So all day long, and I've never thought I would see this in the United States of America, but the American press, seemed to believe what Iran was saying. Well, Iran is saying that they're not really talking about a deal. They kind of poo-pooed the idea of a 15-point plan that was essentially agreed to by Iran. But I guess that's where we stand now, that ABC, NBC, CNN, they'll actually take the Iranian points of view at this point seriously?
Well, it's great to be with you, Laura. And no surprise that too much of the media enterprise is sympathetic to our adversaries. Look, 3 quick points, and you hit the most important. The only numbers that really matter are the fact that the United States and Israel are intercepting 92 to 94% of what's left of the Iranian inventory. And second, 100% of our strikes are successful. There's nothing the Iranians can do about it. You're 100% right. It is just a matter of time. We need to let the president cook. Second, he's doing a masterful job of it. He manufactured leverage by stating we'll hit their power supply and power generation facilities if they don't stop within 48 hours. Lo and behold, we're in negotiations. And 3, while he has a clear idea of where he's headed, the Iranians are in absolute chaos, mostly because their leadership's been decimated, but also because they're disconnected from one another. And so now they're arguing with themselves about how best to proceed. And in the end, I think a military solution is nearly done and will probably be the way this conflict ends.
Do you believe that Karg Island is going to have to be occupied by American troops, given the absolute essential nature of securing safe passage through the strait?
I don't think Karg Island has much to do with passage through the straits because they're not proximal. Second, the military threat there has already been destroyed. The only utility it serves now is an energy outlet, the regime's primary energy outlet, and that could be destroyed and taken offline with surgical precision by eliminating the buoys which provide the actual material to ships at sea. And so no occupation of it, no possession or seizure of it, in my estimation, is necessary. And certainly I think the elimination of the threat along the Straits of Hormuz is nearly complete, and vessels should be able to begin passage again within the next 2 weeks, I think.
Robert, for most of the day, the president and his advisors have been saying on and off the record that they're not talking to the supreme leader. I mean, we never see him, right? So the son of the former supreme leader, he's obviously incapacitated in some way, shape, or form. So what would you understand to be the primary point of negotiation that's obviously occurring?
Well, you're right. In Mojtaba Khamenei, the supreme leader, or the deceased supreme leader's son, is perhaps even dead. We're not sure. We've not heard from him. He may also be reluctant to come online lest he join his father. I think in the end now, power has been fractured among elements of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And the latest rumor has been the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Mohammad Kalibaf, former mayor of Tehran, former IRGC general officer for decades, may be the person that they're negotiating with. And in the end, now they're debating with each other who has the authority to do so. And I don't think it'll conclude successfully, although the president has obviously clearer insight into this than I do. I think at the end of the day, it's unlikely we'll see a negotiated settlement to the conflict.
What if Iran calls the president's bluff? I mean, what if they're that suicidal? Are we prepared for real escalation here?
Well, I think it's a very real possibility. They've negotiated with themselves and reluctantly basically rebuffed all of the president's previous offers and talked themselves out of it. I think it's very likely this time could happen, especially because they're no longer coordinated and one person isn't calling the shots. So the debate will continue. Are we prepared for escalation? I think the answer is absolutely yes. There's very little capacity within the Islamic Republic to resist and to threaten its neighbors. The president and our military and Israel's military has sufficiently addressed this threat and continues to do so. With very little left, I think the threat is diminished. Iran's ability to escalate is virtually gone.
And in Saudi Arabia, other Gulf nations, obviously they want this over, but they want to go back to being a prosperous region without the constant threat of terrorist activity or foreign intervention. They don't want either. Do you see them further stepping up here, given what's at stake?
Well, I think you're right. This is a region full of businessmen who want to get back to doing business, and energy exports are among the most important for them. They absolutely want to get back to it, and so we want them to get back to it. The world's economy is dependent upon it. I think they absolutely want this to happen. I don't see them stepping up so long as the United States and Israel are bearing the brunt of it. I think they're content with watching us succeed, and in the end, they may perform some service, but I don't think they're really being asked to do so. And I don't think they're enthusiastic about the idea so long as risk remains. However, they've struck the Gulf harder than Israel and the United States, so there may be a time in which the threshold is crossed and they decide to act, and they'll do so with the arms, equipment, and intelligence the United States provides.
Well, we usually do the heavy lifting, and once again, it seems to be the case. Robert, thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.